We're back, baby. Horns up, talking Texas Pod, Fisher, Tassopoulos, the Quan, Cosby, those listening on ESPN 102.7 Austin. What up? Happy game day. Game day once again in the ATX. Our boys live to see another weekend. We host the Clemson Tigers in what is the first ever home playoff game for the Texas Longhorns. One of the first ever home playoff games, point blank, period, for anybody in this new 12-team college football playoff. Before we get to the game and preview the game and Dabo and the Clemson Tigers coming into our house, we have to give some major respects. Banks won the Outland. Jade won the Thorpe. We had several All-Americans across the board in terms of like first team, second team, third team. Ant Hill, Taft got on there. Banks, Jade, Ant Hill, and Alfred Collins, which is great, got on the All-American teams. And Q, I'd love to hear from your perspective, you know, having played there and what people consider the prime, obviously, you know, being a fan then through the darker days and now seeing where things are at, where we're having these many All-Americans and these many award winners, back-to-back years where we have the Outland Award winner, one on the defensive line with Devondre Sweat and now with Kelvin Banks. In your eyes, like, what does this mean for the program? What does it mean for you as a former player to see this happening?
Man, it's funny because in current news, you know, people are like, oh, Arch versus, you know, Ewers and all of that. It's crazy in a roundabout way. What that means to me is these coaches know what they're doing. They know what they're doing recruiting. They know what they're doing developing, and they know who they're playing. And for me, that happened all the time back in the day. You got Huff, one of my teammates who was a former, you know, Thorpe, A. Ross, right after Huff, Griffins, they were all up for it. So when you're stacking guys like that, there's no surprise that you're in another playoff. I think it translates to it, but not just getting them, but then developing them. Of course, being strategic with the portal. It's a hats off to Sark and their staff, man, that they're putting some guys in there. They're getting guys to stay a little bit longer to develop more. And you got Banks. I was talking to another group, Mark Henry and a buddy of mine, and they were like, well, how does he get left off this? Or how does the line get left off that? And I said, it doesn't matter what you're left off in September. It matters where you are, you know, in now December. And what you see is a lot of guys who balled out like Tap Daddy, Jade, all the ones on Anthony Hill. So kudos to Sark, their staff, but even more for those guys making plays and getting some national recognition for it.
Yeah, absolutely. And you bring up a great point of guys just committing to the program and buying in. And then on that Arch and Ewers point, which has been such a pivotal point for, I feel as if many outside of Longhorn Nation, that's more of the national media creating this hysteria going into the college football playoffs. Arch Manning is bought in. Quinn Ewers is bought in. And these guys are fully locked in to win a national championship, let alone win this game this upcoming Saturday, or on Saturday if you're listening on Saturday today. And it's just, I was going through your time there, and there were some insane players, all-time Longhorns, and we still didn't have this number of All-Americans. And I was also going through, though, looking at the rest of the list of who was on the All-Americans, and, you know, kudos to our guys for even making it back in the day, because there were some all-time college football players, it seems, in the 2000s, like just really nasty dudes. Like, but to have this many guys represented, to be winning these awards, and your head coach is an offensive-minded head coach, and it's not the quarterback winning these awards, it's defensive players. That just really, in my eyes, shows the change in program that we've had here at Texas. That not only do we have a great defense, we have an award-winning defense. And Taft is the best story in college football. You know, Alfred Collins, like, stayed and stepped up. Jade Barron stayed and stepped up. Like, it's really such a wonder on Sark's part, and it's such a crazy time. And I'd love to, and I know before you jump in first, Toss, but after, I do want to discuss the transfer portal with you guys.
Yeah.
and the timing of all of that and how chaotic it's been for some certain players just across the college football landscape. But Toss, your thoughts too on like the number of guys being recognized in the national spotlight this year.
Yeah, well, it, it's great to get that acknowledgement and that recognition from the collegiate landscape, from the collegiate media. But most importantly, in my eyes, you know, of three of the teams in the college football playoff, Texas included, alongside Georgia and Ohio State, in pretty much every full mock draft, are going to have 10 plus guys from their team drafted in the upcoming NFL drafts in 2025. And that to me is the most important thing. And if it means that their play has gotten them this recognition and then that turns into them getting drafted and making money to be a professional football player, that's it. Sark's doing his job. And of course, so much of that is tied into winning, which is also a part of his job to lead these men, to put them in positions to demonstrate their athleticism, their intangibles, their wherewithal, how they can be a great teammate and go get it done on the field, and they have to execute, and they have been doing that. And that's why we have the best defense in the country. That's why we went into College Station and beat our rivals who we hadn't seen in 11 years and dominated them. That's why we played a really good Georgia football team very close in overtime, and why we're in the college football playoff and could get a chance to take another lick at them and potentially end up on the right side of it if we face them in the final, in the college football final, which would be, from a narrative standpoint, from a script writing standpoint, CFP, they're doing their jobs. They know exactly what they're doing.
Oh yeah.
But I think it's important for us to talk about this. I think it's important for us to talk about Alfred Collins, Jahdae Barron specifically, those guys staying a year and what they were able to accomplish individually and also as teammates, of the Burn Orange. And it's directly tied and correlated to what you want to talk about with the transfer portal, because there's another team in college football in the playoff, Penn State, who has a backup quarterback, similar situation as Arch Manning, named Bo Prabilla, who has gotten a lot of run, different packages where they've utilized him offensively for Penn State. And he's already entered the portal. He has to enter the portal because he has to give himself the best chance possible. And once Aller said, I'm coming back, which we love that. If you're a Penn State fan, you certainly love that. He's the type of guy that could be a top 10, top 5 in preseason Heisman odds next year. He's grown from year 1 to year 2. But now you have this thing lingering in your locker room as you're trying to win playoff games and bring attention to your school, bring recognition. Thank goodness we're not dealing that with our quarterbacks. But it's also not lost on me that this first game against Clemson, the most important thing for me, and that what I'm keyed in on, is Quinn Ewers' play, because Quinn Ewers still has eligibility. And I'm not saying he's going to come back to college football. If he plays well against Clemson, he plays well, and we do, the Texas Longhorns, what we need to do offensively, and he is the main driver of that train, then he'll be fine. And he'll be taken in the first round, late in the first round, and no questions asked. But if things don't go that way, he would have to announce that he's entering the portal before game 2, before we played Arizona State, if we are to beat Clemson, which, knock on wood, we take care of business at home. But even that's just a crazy thing to talk about right now, because it should be about the games. It should be about these guys playing each other, these matchups, which are incredible matchups, incredible storylines, like I just mentioned, with Georgia and Texas potentially facing each other at the very end. Tennessee and Ohio State, what an unbelievable matchup. The Battle of Indiana, Notre Dame and Indiana. Like, it's awesome what they've put together here, and I think everybody's excited about it, and there's more teams involved, obviously, and that in and of itself is exciting. We get to watch more football. We love that. It's the best. It's the best of the best.
That's why we really love it.
Yeah, but I don't love that, like, these kids are forced to make a decision. They have to look out for the benefit of themselves. Like, I don't blame Bo for doing that. If he wants to go to a good program, he has to give himself as many looks as he possibly can. Again, we're talking about these guys want to get to the league. They want to get to the next level. They want to get paid doing it. So it's just the system, and it makes me scratch my head. It makes me frustrated. But it is the way that it is. Quan, are you and the guys that played talking about, what these guys are having to deal with and how odd this situation is?
Man, it's surprise. You have legislators who made changes to rules and then have many people who actually know the rules or who've experienced it in the room. It's insane. And that's what we've talked about. And it sucks because, fans who aren't as knowledgeable, a kid does that and it's 2024. They're getting threats. They're getting, crapped on at social media. All these decisions that are made, and they're just complying to them or doing what they feel is best, and they're the ones getting punished the most, which is crazy, but that's what happens. And so,
Yeah.
the timing of this is, when you rip off the Band-Aid and you make changes like a longer playoff or different things, how do you not wholesale look at every aspect as to what's the next step? And that's what they continue to not do. It's insane to me. It is literally, hey man, I'm about to take a road trip, but I'm only going to look at the map to Texas. I'm driving to California, but now that's actually not a good one because I-10 takes you all the way there. But I'm driving to Colorado.
Civil engineers and the thoughtfulness that they put into building the roads that run across our entire country, there's thoughtfulness behind it.
There's thoughtfulness.
There's a checks and balances system.
There? What is here? There really is, and that's what everyone who changed these rules, that's what they didn't factor in. The portal, even before this situation, was in shambles. It just continues to get worse and worse and worse. And so ultimately, that's what we talk about. It sucks because the kids, they get people come at them, and honestly, that's annoying because people do that. But people are people. They suck sometimes, and the kids have to deal with the unreal decisions. Because I promise you, that kid might want to move after this and leave after this, but it gets even uglier or messy. What if Penn State makes a run and win a national championship? I mean, it sucks. It's life-changing things that they're going to have to, change or decisions they'll have to make that it really doesn't make a lot of sense.
And how about, and just real quick here, how about in addition to the kids, some of these coaches now who you see Brian Kelly putting up part of his contract for NIL money, and he wants to give that back to bring in more recruits for the transfer portal. Guess what? Not every college head coach is in Brian Kelly's position.
Exactly.
Where he has money to spend, where he can sacrifice some of his salary. Like some of these guys, their first opportunity to do this, and now all of a sudden they have to compete because they have to keep their job. Yeah. But they also are trying to look out for their family and their livelihood, and they just moved somewhere. They just bought a house in a new place. They wanted to touch down, build some roots somewhere, raise their family, and all of a sudden they have to sacrifice 15% of their contract just to give to the kids. Of course, you're willing to do that. It's worth it to give it to the kids, but now your hand's been forced, and you can't even once one coach does it, everyone's going to follow suit.
Yeah, once you do it once, you do it a million times. For Brian Kelly, it's different though.
Yeah.
Because he's not worth the money they pay him, so he should be giving some of that back
to
the school.
I was about to say, it's like, what did he make, like 11, and then he gives back 2, and he's still in the top 10, and he's really never fulfilled any of his contracts.
He's never going to do it. He's never going to do it. Like,
does he have a natty? He doesn't have a natty, does he?
No, he does too.
And he's paid like natty coaches.
In his defense, he does have multiple college football playoff in the 4-team playoff appearances. So I'll just not every coach has that. Okay.
I'm like, I'll have to recheck the math. I'm pretty sure he got piped every time. Like the thing is about
again, no Brian, conference. He was a problem with this system before it even happened.
Yeah, 100%. You're so right though, Toss. Like there's so many levels to it. First of all, that Penn State kid who his hand is forced because he's got talent, right? And he wants to maybe end up and start somewhere and get his time to shine because he's not going to start for the Nittany Lions next year. It'll be Drew Aller, unless Drew Aller reverses his decision because he goes absolutely nuclear in the college football playoffs and he jumps to that third quarterback spot, which I still think is not out of the question. But as it stands right now, he's coming back once again to try to be that number one guy taken in the draft. Now you're talking about a kid hand forced. If they, by some chance, James Franklin does get it done and they win the college football playoffs, that kid misses out on that moment.
Yep.
And it's not the NFL. Like, this isn't like, I know they're getting paid, but it's not their jobs. They're still college kids. These are still their boys. Like, Quan, the guys you play with, those are your college friends. Like, I'm going to Austin. I'm going to Texas this week for my college friends 30, they're our college friends. It's a completely different animal. Like, and he has to go leave that too. That's like the human aspect of it. And from a coaching standpoint, if you're a coach in the college football, the SMU coach was livid, and I'm completely aligned with him because SMU is not getting these 5-star recruits from the jump. Their bread and butter is going to be in the transfer portal. Oh, you're not getting playing time at Alabama? Come on over here to the Mustangs. I will give you a shot. They're getting the seconds that nobody, like, of the guys who want playing time.
Yeah.
Right. And the talented guys who want playing time that just are at the bigger universities where they're kind of blocked. Now, he's a guy that has to focus on his first college football playoff experience, has to worry about coaching the game planning for a really tough team while the transfer portal is going on. Like, even from Sark, who has experience doing this now, it's the second year in the college football playoff, his second year with the circus of the transfer portal while being in the college football playoff. That coaching staff, you have to have your head on a swivel in the transfer portal because you might lose guys to the draft. Like,
Yeah,
there's a couple.
guess who just joined the ACC? Guess who just joined your conference? Bill Belichick.
Bill Belichick.
Guess who's going after a lot of those recruits? Bill Belichick
Yeah.
and the staff that he's putting together with a fat endowment from UNC. Who's got more money? SMU's got some money. They got a big endowment there. Dallas knows how to spend money on their academics. That's for sure. So does UNC. So does Chapel Hill. So you're absolutely right, Josh. It's a really tough thing to deal with.
It's like this is just the tip of the iceberg what people talk about. Like, there's like so many levels to it. Q, and then we'll get into our game, but this is weirdly one that may hit kind of close to home because your head coach was Mac Brown and he was at UNC, and now Bill Belichick is taking over as the head coach of you don't have to disclose anything personal if you've spoken to Mac, but I would just love to hear your thoughts on the situation with Bill coming in there, what it's like, obviously playing in the NFL during his heyday of coaching and seeing this movement of like the greatest coach to the college football ranks and replacing Mac.
Man, there's so many layers to that. The first, most important, Bill Belichick is one of the best in the NFL. But we've been talking about the portal, the timing, the recruiting. Bill Belichick, I will say, he actually did have control of his rosters and on draft day, and he kind of served as a GM, co-GM when it came to that. But that's not recruiting high school kids. That's not really figuring out certain levels of the portal. So I think he'll have to get the right pieces in there, get the support, and talk to those who've been doing it, because you can be the best ever, but you have 3-4 years with someone to try to figure out, versus a grown man who knows how to study, who knows how to prepare, and who is the uber elite. And so I don't know how this Belichick project's going to happen. I do appreciate the fact that he's smart enough to say, let me go get some more of that money. He's not really getting calls from the NFL. So let me go get it. Let me figure it out. Maybe if it goes well, they will call me again. So, and he can brush off that I'm only as good as having Tom Brady on there. So that's the Belichick angle. It's pub for, in my opinion, I would argue UNC is dipping in a little bit of Colorado. I mean, you know how many eyeballs are on Colorado every year because of Deion being on there? So that's a long way of saying it's all a business. It could work out. Deion had a good year, had a horrible year last year. They still led the nation in viewership, had a better year this year, and they were in the top 3. So maybe what UNC is going to help, because football does make money, especially in the South. Coach Brown, he's good, man. I think ultimately he's, 73 years old right now. He's a Hall of Famer. So him and Miss Sally are moving back after the first. So it'll be some good golfing time. But I think that era, Saban, all of them, man, they've done it for so long a certain way.
Yes.
And although you can say I support NIL and there's some pros and cons, it's exhausting. It's because, which I digress, makes it that much harder for it to be a Belichick world in this world. Dude, is Belichick as good as he think on Twitter or X or whatever it is? Because these kids are on there. Social media, Insta, does Belichick have a good Insta? And so that's the world that's changed. And even though Coach Brown, to a certain degree, especially going back to UNC, involved with it, Sark, the younger coaches who kind of grew up with that world, I think they're just better suited for it. Their staffs are as well. The staffs are getting younger. So it's Coach Brown's good. He's finally clicked and ready for retirement. And this Belichick thing, I am super intrigued by it because I will say you can be the best coach at a certain level, but I have my doubt on what's going to happen at UNC.
Who was your in the NFL? You had Lewis.
Marvin Lewis, and he ended up going to college. He didn't take a head coaching job, but he did, take a position coach, and I don't think that lasts very long. Now, I will say this: every coach is different. Marvin didn't win in the league, so let's not act like he's going to go do something in college. But
He was able. He could get to the playoffs though.
we did. We actually got to the playoffs my rookie year. We never won a playoff game. Got there twice.
No, yeah, that's a different story.
And even then, our defenses were great, which Marvin's specialty was that. But no, man, I'm intrigued by this deal. We're talking about it, so they already got some wins. I will try to watch some games. They'll get a few more TV spots, which is money for UNC. So I get it. And them being the basketball school that they are, they can't lose anything. Mac won more games with them than anything, and they're pouring in some money. So it's going to be fun. It's going to be crazy to see. Belichick in freaking North Carolina blue just feels weird.
It does feel weird, but when he has that cutoff hoodie and those J's on, like it's just going to be such a look on the sideline. It's going to become a Halloween costume.
It is, dude.
Yeah.
Jordan Stark coming back.
Every 25-year-old guy with a girlfriend is they're just gonna do Belichick and his 25-year-old girlfriend. It's a perfect.
Their girlfriend doesn't have to dress up. Quite
That's
frankly,
what I'm saying.
only the guy has to dress up. Yeah, 100%. All right, let's go to the meat and potatoes here. We host the Clemson Tigers, and we're the heavy favorite. Actually, might be the biggest favorite this weekend of all 4 games. That includes Notre Dame hosting what many people believe to be a untested Indiana team outside of Ohio State, a Penn State team who people are very, very bought in on, hosting the SMU Mustangs, who were, one of those teams that's like, should it be Bama or SMU? Should it be a South Carolina SMU? They were kind of last man in on this college football playoff. Yet we stand as the heaviest favorite amongst the group over the Clemson Tigers. We've been down the road before. We've been favored a multitude of times in this situation throughout the year. Q, what's your message to the squad going into this one? If you're a coach, even as like an upperclassman, when yes, you're the favorite. Yes, Clemson has had a quote unquote down year, but it's still Dabo Swinney who has won and won and won and has been to the national championship and delivered.
That's what you tell him. I mean, this guy's one of the very few national championship coaches that are still, coaching in the league. Mac Brown, just another one just left. And he's been in his position. Like Clemson's been in the playoff. And I just tell him, you don't pay attention to all of that stuff. They're going to come in. They have stuff to prove because people are saying they shouldn't even be in because of their losses. They lost to the same teams you lost to, one being that. So it's a lot of stuff. Klubnik coming back to Austin to play ball. That's a cool story that I know everybody's going to appreciate. So, and they better be ready for him, is what I think they say, and ready to get their best, because I still feel like they're going to come in pretty fired up. And a dangerous team is one that really feels like they don't have anything to lose. And I think in a weird way, that's what Clemson is. That line, I think, is a bit silly. I do think we're going to do well, but I'd say 10. Anything above that. And honestly, I think a better line would be 6 or 7, but anything above 10, I don't feel necessarily comfortable about. But I do think, led by that defense and a healthier Quan and Bond and all the guys who've been banged up, I like our chances at home.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Toss, what do you think, man?
I've said this, I think, maybe the last couple of games that we've played, but it seems as if progressively throughout the season, we keep facing the upcoming week the best quarterback we've ever faced.
Mm.
And I firmly believe that once again. I mean, look, you could have gone into that SEC championship game saying that Carson Beck, for the second time around, playing better football at that point, was the best we've seen. Okay, we stymied him in the first half. He did nothing. Their backup was able to with no tape, with our defense not having any tape, exploit
Right.
more matchups with his legs than Carson Beck was in the first half. Some of that's, adjustments by Kirby Smart, and he's one of the best halftime adjustment coaches in college football. You talked about Dabo, Quan. We talked about Mac Brown, Kirby Smart. He's the only other guy with one of these in college football as a coach right now. But we're talking about the Clemson Tigers. We're talking about Cade Klubnik, a guy that's thrown for 33 touchdowns, only 5 interceptions. He has quietly been one of the best quarterbacks in all of college football. He picked up another 7 touchdowns on the ground. He has his longest rush for a touchdown this year was a 55-yard rush. So the guy can move. He can throw. He can move. He's going to have to be Superman in this game because I think defensively this is not the same Clemson as those teams that were competing in the 4-team playoff. It's just not the same, especially on the pass defense. They have a couple of playmakers on the line who are going to try and get after Quinn. But ultimately, for me, the key factor for our squad is we got to get to this guy and we got to make him pay. And we got to put pressure on him. We got to make his job uncomfortable. And he's going to have to be elite, perfect, whatever, immaculate, like what he's going to have to be at the level that he can play at, but pretty much for 4 quarters. And the one thing I've seen from every single team in college football, save the Oregon Ducks, is that no team in college football really has put together a game where they've played all 4 quarters 9 out of 10. And Clemson certainly didn't do that against SMU in the second half. So, we'll get into our takeaways, I guess, but this is one that we constantly use. Got to take care of the football once again. I mean, we talked about the possibility and even the inkling, and it's been thrown out there by people, if Quinn wants to up his draft stock, that he would look for another opportunity elsewhere. And already the murmurs to go to the Ducks and play with Dan Lanning as their quarterback in a system where he can go stack up yards, whatever. Forget all of that. As I said earlier, you quell the noise, you dominate, you play clean, mistake-free football. You operate this sophisticated Steve Sarkisian offense, and I promise you that NFL GMs will buy into you being a first-round talent, and you will not need to go back to college and do what everyone thinks you should do. You're that good. You're ready, man. You've done it on the road. You've done it when the lights were brightest. Just show them what you can do when you're healthy. Just show them what your playmakers can do in space. Slide those protections, pull the back, whatever you need to do, you can do it. Just don't get rattled and don't make critical mistakes. And I think we take care of this football game. I know that's maybe I'm sleeping on this Clemson team a little bit, but I know our talent beats them. We just talked about the All-Americans. We just talked about what the personnel looks like on our team. Our defensive line, the depth there, our defensive backs, the way they can make plays on the football. Let's get 2 picks on Cade Klubnik. Like, let's make him have a hell of a hard day in Austin, Texas, where he feels comfortable like he's at home. He's not at home. He's playing against the Texas Longhorns in their home stadium.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, very well said. And like, taking care of the football is something that at times we're so great at, and at times it's just like a facet of the game that just slips through our fingers. And when you play a team like Georgia, like we just played in our last game, like, I don't care who's under center. Quite frankly, they were better with Stockton than they were Beck against us.
Right.
Like, they're going to make you pay and find ways to make you pay in the run game, the passing game, and they're going to, try trick plays and try to catch you sleeping. On Quinn, Q, it's a 2-part question, because there's so many times where he's just dialed in and dealing, but there's some times when he's forcing throws. Like, what's going through the quarterback's mind when he's trying to hit that? Is he so locked in on the play and trying to get the progression correctly and go through Sark's play, or is he getting jittery back there and feeling pressure and not getting scared, but kind of trying to force the issue?
I think really, man, when you're a little banged up, I think there's just human nature, right? You want to stay healthy. You feel like you're the best option. So you get naturally a little bit quicker when, you have a club on your foot. And you know what's wild about it too, though? You see those plays, and unfortunately they happen in certain times and potential mistakes happen. But I go back to that game, the SEC championship, and he still threw for 358, 360, something like that. And so, and we led when we had the most drops we've had all year. I think we had seven drops. And so I think, like I said, him being healthier is going to be a big deal. He's going to feel more comfortable. He's not going to think about that aspect. Even when he was banged up versus A&M, and a couple of times he used his legs smartly. So as crazy as it sounds, I think the last 3 to 4 weeks with Quinn, and it's amazing when you're just, I mean, you almost have to be laser focused because you're worried about other things. I think he's grown. I truly think he has. He still make that one mistake a game. The first pick wasn't his fault. That hit Bond in both hands, and so he should have caught it. But the second one was he was a little bit early. I rewatched it a few times and still feel like he was because sometimes the receiver runs the wrong route. But nah, man, I think that's the issue more than anything versus because I think he has Sark's offense down, and really Sark talks about that all the time. That he runs it well. He's even had the ability that I've seen to change plays in it, which shows maturation. So I'm telling you, man, I don't know why this is on my gut, but I think we about to see a pretty dang good version of Quinn Ewers this Saturday, just because of all the reasons mentioned, the insane amount of storylines. And we talked about Klubnik. We talked about Quinn, them playing each other, Tap Daddy. We haven't talked about Makuba. He transferred from Clemson. And so it's just an insane amount of storylines. It's fun. Dude, I keep waking up going, holy crap, it's playoff football this weekend. And it's like real playoff football. Like there's people watching that has a bye. There's teams and it's phenomenal storylines. Indiana's, us, the SMUs, are they for real? It's so many layers to why this is such a freaking cool time. And then you have one on Friday, smartly. Boise, Genty, is he pissed off because he didn't win the Heisman? I mean, it's so many layers to why this is going to be so freaking fun. And most importantly, we're a part of it. Again, we keep talking about it. We got to give Sark and staff their flowers. We can talk about all the million things, but we have to go. We're back to back now. There's only two left who have a natty, but there's not many who's been to multiple playoffs either.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. And then before we get back to us, just when you brought up Genty, do you guys believe that he should have won the Heisman? Or are you, because it was a close vote.
It really was. It was honestly closer than I expected it to be. Quan,
Me too.
First.
This is the thing. The Heisman for so long was so much about stats. And that stat that they put up, Derrick Henry, Reggie Bush, all these running backs that won the Heisman, and he has 3, close to 400 yards more, 500, 600 of some of them. And the factor for me more than anything is Boise State has a first-round bye in the first ever college playoff. I think before I really processed that, I was leaning on it being Hunter. And again, they had a better season, but he doesn't even have the best stats at any position. Not at DB, not at receiver. And he's great and he's fun and he's exciting. And Deion's a marketing genius. It just makes the Heisman feel more like a popularity contest. And by the way, when you have media people voting on him, that's kind of what their job is versus really watching ball and seeing how insanely special Jenny's season was. Hadn't been a running back do it in a while, but if it's purely on the stats, Hunter, and honestly, when he won the Maxwell, I didn't think he was going to win it. Unbelievable season. He's exciting. But last but not least, when Jenny goes to the league, they know where he's going to play. One of the crazy pieces about Hunter, as fun as he is to watch, he's not a first-round receiver, and they're not sure he's a first-round DB. I think his better choice is DB, but those are all the factors I think about from a standpoint of there's a popularity contest more than the numbers this year. And I'm with y'all. I thought Hunter was going to win it all the time because of those reasons.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a little surprised that was the route you went. Happily surprised because I'm aligned with you. Like Ashton Genty literally ran his team to the playoffs, and you could say that their competition wasn't as stiff, but he played Oregon in the tightest game they played pretty much outside of Ohio State, and he ran wild on Oregon. I don't care at what point in the season. He was fantastic in that game.
Yes.
And he's the best player on a team that, by the way, without him, probably would not be sniffing the college football playoffs, let alone, like
Thank
you're
you.
saying, the
That
numbers.
literally is my point. Yes.
Yeah,
And
but I think it's also a fair counterpoint to say if they're not Boise State, like they might not, like if they're not in the Mountain West, they might not be in the playoff either. So I get what you're saying. Like it's incredibly impressive that he put the team on his back in this type of way, and especially at that position,
literally.
And at that position, it's tremendously difficult because you run the football that many times and you're that successful. Defenses can't stack the box. They can make it really, really tough for you to continuously throughout a 4-quarter game. And a lot of times he was only playing 2 quarters or 3 quarters because they were up by that much. And his stats would have been even more crazy if he had stayed in all 4 quarters against some of the competition that they played. I do get the counter there. I am interested, Quan, to hear. So for you, the snaps being out there doing something that no one really else has ever done for Hunter it's not enough.
I mean, again, you can be out there all you want, and he did great and had good times, but the stats still have to matter. There could be somebody who can literally, and of course this is embellishing, that can play every snap on every deal. But if they're just out there and they don't do a damn thing, what does that matter? You really have to perform at a way. And he did have.
He's elite at both those positions, I would say. I'm not saying he's the best wide receiver or the best corner, but he's an elite college football player at both positions, which we haven't really seen with that snap count.
Again, and you're saying Boise's competition. I don't know that the Big 12 was world beaters either, but I don't know.
You're right. But
you saying elite is.
It's just a term, right?
Well, he was the second-rated DB in college football.
Okay, thank you, PFF King. I
Rated?
appreciate you coming.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah. I mean, you guys know I'm the PFF. Well, the PFF goes well for us too sometimes.
No. I'm being facetious, but I think if that's data that we actually can look at in the same way that we can see rushing yards, and it matters to me. It's not the end-all be-all, but it's still valid. I would say that the Big 12 collectively as a conference better than the Mountain West. I feel, but that's my opinion. I feel I've watched enough football for that opinion to be valid this season in college football. I will also say that like college football, this is just an inevitability of it. It's inequitable. We're talking about it with the transfer portal and Brian Kelly and him sacrificing part of his contract. Like it is not, if Ashton Jeanty wasn't on a group of 5 team, if he was on Alabama and he was doing what he did, like he would be the Heisman Trophy winner. And it's not wrong or right. It's just the facts of how the nature of the landscape of college football is.
Hold on. Can I say something about that before I forget?
Yeah.
You said, what league was SMU in last year?
They were in the
Mountain West. Weren't they in the Mountain West?
I thought they were in the American Conference.
They may have been in the American. So this is my thing. You probably would say Big 12 was better than American, yet SMU just went to the ACC and was a 60-year-old field goal from being the ACC champions. They said we couldn't handle the SEC. So I think those arguments are kind of out the window.
Deeper. Big 12 is deeper than the Mountain West as far as, I'm not saying
that's what they said about the SEC. And then when we got to the championship, y'all got the easiest schedule of it. I'm telling you.
No, I know, but but at a certain point, Quan, we know.
I'm just being honest. We can't say that anymore. There was a new person in the conference in every championship game.
Facts.
True. That's true. Yeah.
So,
you're right. That's what's changed individual teams in the transfer portal era, because you can bring in the player. You can do what Indiana did, and you can bring 12 players from James Madison onto your team, and it could completely change the dynamic of how you operate in the conference, right? Indiana not been a team that's been at the top of the Big Ten for quite some time. They've had a real tough go at it. And then all of a sudden, they get the right coach, they get the right quarterback, they get 12 players from James Madison who have played together, not to mention the other guys that were already on Indiana. So yeah, you're right. You're right. The way that I evaluate it, it's like at a certain point I have to make decisions on who I think is better or worse if I'm going to have an opinion about it. But you're right. It's who is anyone to not then counter and say, well, that's a load of crap because X, Y, and Z, as you've listed out, are all true as well.
Yeah.
which
And I will
ultimately
say,
goes back to the season he had. And I also, we do have at least one, and Josh talked about it. If he had 15 yards versus Oregon, the only undefeated team in the country, I'd be like, well, see, that competition where he played better, he didn't do well. And no, dude, he still balled out that game too. What's up?
no,
We
you're
lost you
good.
for a
We
second.
lost you. You
Oh,
should go back to what you were saying.
I
Yeah.
said he still balled out versus Oregon too. So we actually
Yes.
do
Yeah.
have an example of him playing the quote unquote better competition, the only undefeated team left, and he still balled out. So that's things like that to me. It's versus the Heisman he is the most important person on that team. T Hunter did well, but they lost 3 games.
Yes.
That honestly, that's the best argument that you
Yeah,
can
they lost
to,
3 games.
and you can argue that, and again, positional value is not fair, but it is what it is. And the quarterback is Shedeur Sanders is a more important team likely to Colorado's success than Travis Hunter.
Thousand
Yeah,
percent.
exactly right.
1,000%. And I will say before we
And the
get back to the
quarterback's
horns,
best friend is a running back where you can hand it off. He's almost transitioning you being the most important piece of it when he just gets it and hand it off to you.
Yeah, it's like the QB for Boise State needs to do what running backs do for offensive linemen when they set a rushing record, right? Where you get them
Yeah.
the nice watch or whatever. He owes that quarterback owes Ashton Genty a nice gift.
Ashton,
Shedeur, this is a weird one. Sorry, but I gotta say so. Shedeur's NIL is bigger than Travis Hunter's. Jenny's is bigger than their quarterback. You know
yeah,
what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it's
like
little
not
things
even
like
close.
that.
Jenny's NIL is probably bigger than the entire team, realistically. And because you call me a PFF lover on Genty's behalf, his running the football, he was a 97.5, which is like pretty much perfect. He pretty much had a perfect season running the football, which like I'm just saying is kind of wild. One thing that's not, because look, we know what our team is. We spoke about it so many times. We know how strong we are in defense. Toss, you're 100% right to bring up that Cade is the best quarterback we've faced, and I'm completely in alignment with you with an undoubtedly underrated season he's had. We know what our defense can do. This is the best defense he's also faced on the flip side of the coin. Rushing the passer, all the guys that we can rotate in and out, our defensive backfield, Makuba somehow getting flagged and to pick up the flag again. So we have him for the entire game once more in a scary moment, like against Georgia. One thing that's been really grinding my gears is our red zone efficiency on offense. For some reason, Sark and Quinn and the run game and the plays dialed up, getting to within the 20, 15, 10 is not a problem. But when we get down to that 20-yard line, we're just not putting the ball in the end zone. Do you guys feel the play calling is getting too cute?
Well,
Do you guys feel we don't have a red zone identity?
let's
Like-
be honest about it. We're also in that game against Georgia. We also had a lot of self-inflicted wounds, costly holding calls that take you out. You get all the way down there, you're knocking on the door, you're on the 6-yard line, and then all of a sudden you're on the 21. You know, like that's it. It's a game changer. It's a huge momentum shift for the defense, who now feel like they have a chance to stop you and only allow you to get 3 points. So it's self-inflicted wounds too. So I think first and foremost, it's being disciplined, especially at the right tackle position, and not getting any costly, ineligible play man downfield, because we want a lot of motion, a lot of screens to the outside. That's always a possibility. No holding calls. So that's what you have to key in on first and foremost. And I think this is an opportunity where, okay, I'm going to do it again, but I'm going to compare the Clemson defense versus a team that we ran the football all over in the Texas A&M Aggies. And they had talented playmakers on their defensive line, and we were able to run the football. We were able to pound the rock. And Trey Wisner got into an awesome rhythm. And then we were able to punch it in when we needed to. Yes, we had 2 costly turnovers, but I think if we had continued to run the football in those scenarios, I would not have been questioning the playmaking. We wouldn't have been questioning anything. We would have walked away with 30-plus points against A&M and an even bigger walloping than we gave them on the field, that everybody knows. Everybody that watched that game knows. So I think we got to run the football here and build that momentum, because we're going to need that dual identity dynamic so that we don't get into a position, Josh, where we feel like we're getting cute with the play calling because we're trying things again and again. So I think for me, it's about staying disciplined and then running the football and trusting that and trusting your big guys up front against a team where you can win and punching it in and not getting overly complicated with it.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's interesting because it goes back to even last year's playoff. We forget we have the ball on the 12-yard line, first and 12. We have 4 plays, and it's a weird deal to where I think it's a little bit of both. It's hard to figure out sometimes because I think it goes back. You go back to the A&M game. Quinn had the ball and he ended up, tip ball, pick. Then he slides and gets it punched out.
Crazy play.
The dude is on Dr. Pepper commercials. We got to call a spade a spade. He needs to either take care of the ball. That is when you truly have to depend on your captain leading the offense. And if you talk about running the ball, maybe then RPO, because you still have Gunnar Ham. You have the best receivers on the planet. I go back to Sark's time in Alabama when they won that Natty. He wasn't running the ball when he had Devontae Smith. They were, out routing crazy, even systematic, killing them in there. And Waddle. I mean, so Minnesota occasionally runs, but they're throwing it to Jefferson. They're throwing it to, old boy from USC. And so I just you just have to execute. Quite frankly. And if Quinn, you talk about these things right here is why maybe his stock is not where he'd like for it to be. Find a way. 4th and 5, Vince, he has legs, he uses weapons, and he ran it in. He threw a touchdown that game too. So dig a little bit deeper in the red zone and find a freak away, whether it's running the ball, O-line, Quinn making that great throw. Gunnar Helm he had a couple of drop size game, but he's insanely automatic. And I feel like those plays have been called. And I do think for our fan base who want Arch to come in and run, pound it in every time, bam, bam, Sam, pound. I think it may work out with him and Wisner back there with a zone read or, again, an RPO, but it's still weird for me. I don't think it bodes well for Quinn to get taken out every time in the red zone per his future. But I'm going to be honest, from a Longhorn standpoint, I think we need to do what the heck we need to do because it's a big problem. And it goes all the way back. We're in the national championship last year if we are a better red zone offense.
Well, yeah, and I think it's important to point out it was an RPO look. DeAndre Moore in the slot on the left side, slant, beats the safety, good read by Quinn, get him the ball, he makes a play, beats the safety, scores 6 when we play Georgia. So we're more dynamic when we can do everything, when everything's at our disposal. I'd love to see a little, I don't think we saw enough of the Arch package in that Georgia game. I think this is a game, if we get into the red zone, guess what? It's just another thing for a defense to deal with. I like Quinn's decision-making out of the RPO. I like Wisner between the tackles. We like Gunnar Helm, like you just mentioned. I really want to see Ryan Wingo get involved in this game. We talk about a red zone threat, like that guy can make a name for himself in college football.
But that's my point, though. Like you're like listing these guys, and I'm just like confused as to why we can't execute it.
We laid it out though. If you make those mental mistakes from the quarterback position or from the offensive line position, it's not going to work. Like you just can't make those mistakes.
Yeah, I feel Gunnar Helm in recent games is just being criminally underutilized in the red zone. We have a 6'5", 260 tight end.
Yeah,
I
give credit there in that game against Georgia. Like, I just feel like I guess Kirby had a good game plan. That's kind of what I chalk it up to. But yeah, I'm with you.
Like, Wingo is a big-bodied. Like, I know he's young, but like, he's a physical, big-bodied receiver, and he's tough as nails.
Yeah,
it just we got into weird patterns of like fades and like just like fakes and like weird screens, and it was like, dude, like. It just felt very overthought at points when we got into the red zone in that game and even in the A&M game. And it's like we have so many weapons. Golden has 8 touchdowns this year.
Yeah.
And some of them are within the red zone. Helm, and he's a speedster. Helm has 5 touchdowns. Like, those are good numbers, but like Helm's skill set and his athleticism Why doesn't he could have 10 touchdowns?
Yeah, I can think of two plays that were inside the 5 that were just an out to the far pylon that Matthew Golden caught for touchdowns.
the touchdowns.
Yes.
That's easy.
Yeah.
That's like an easy concept. And so I like, that's why I say it's both. I think it's a little bit of execution because Quinn running and fumbling and or tip balls and stuff like that. But yeah, why not simplify it? I mean, just running out. They're better athletes. You know how mortified DBs are in that moment? Run a good route. How many times did Xavier Worthy fake a slant and run back out? Boom, touchdown. And so I think it's a little bit of both. And like you said, Toss, we can't not mention the self-inflicted wounds.
Yeah. All right, guys, we'll close it out. Score predictions. Everyone's favorite time of the show. Toss, you first. I'll go second. Kia will close with you, man.
Sounds good.
I'm going to take a page in honor of our co-host who's not here on this show, but wishes he could be, and we'll be rooting on the Horns on Saturday, Nicky Snacks. I'm going to go for a Texas domination here.
Wow.
Page out of Nicky Snacks. But yeah, I mean, I think if we buy our team, and I certainly know that this staff does, and these players believe in themselves as being a national championship contender, this is a tone-setting game. It's the only one you get at home, and then we're on to the bowl games. And you can establish some great momentum. You've got the crowd behind you, and go out there and take care of business. Like we said, play mistake-free football, but also dominate. Put your foot on the gas. No brakes. Is all gas, no brakes, as we like to say. Not necessarily the mantra this year, but it has been in years past under Sark's tenure. Look, if SMU can score 31 points, we can score 42.
So I'm saying, dude, like,
and
the talent is there.
Yeah, obviously. We know that so well. So well. And I think our defense can shut them down. I'm going to say 42-17.
Ooh,
okay.
Yeah.
Well, before I go,
honestly, I'm going to be a little upset if they score 17 points on us. I'll just be honest.
Okay. Well, guess what? I texted Nicky Snacks, and he goes, I quote, 42-10. Why not? You know what? Why not? I give them a little more credit on offense. They'll have Phil Maffa, their running back, healthy. I think that they're going to.
He's not. Well, hold on. He's not healthy.
They'll have him. They'll have him.
100% getting shoulder surgery as soon as this season is over. He's not healthy, and he is a physical runner who is a contact runner. He's also an absolute warrior. So like he's going to be out there, like you're saying, but he's not healthy. So I just,
okay, fine. They'll have him playing.
Yeah.
I'm going to go. I want it to go. I think the defense is going to ride hot. So I think it's going to go under the 51.5. So I'm going to go. I can't do anything with the field goal because it's going to hurt my soul. I'm going to go 28-14.
Okay.
I like it. Y'all both have them covering.
No, I don't.
Oh, 28. Yeah, you do.
That's 14.
You know, math is hard.
No. Whoa. Time out. Whoa, wait a second. I was tops in my class at math. I thought the spread is 12. I was, Q.
So you do have us covering, is what we're saying.
I have us covering, yeah.
Yeah. That's what we're saying.
Oh, okay. My bad.
Yeah,
math is your math, not English, I guess.
You're really good at math. English.
But let's just clarify also, that's your high school education at play, not your collegiate education at play there. University of Texas didn't teach you that, that's for sure.
It definitely did not teach me that, and there was a long period of losing brain cells down in my collegiate career. You're right. English isn't my strong suit. I'm at ESL.
No, you're certainly a covering. Y'all both have them covering. I actually don't. And I'm gonna tell you why. I get our defense. Believe me, I'm a strong believer in our defense. They're the truth. But I know emotional games just bring this craziness out of a lot of folks. Klubnik, we've been doing a heck of a job on zone read, but it's just really naturally hard to cover, off course, scramble, drill type stuff. And I think he's gonna leave it all out there. So I have us winning by 10, so not covering 31-21. And I think he's gonna will them into a couple of plays. I think they had a few weeks to really prepare, so they're gonna have some trick plays up their sleeve. And unfortunately, I also, until I see it, don't trust our punt team. So if we have a series where we're backed up, I think he'll shank one and give it to him on the 50. And so I'm just being honest about what I've seen. So I think we win, but I think it's a 31-21 game. And I don't care. We're back in Atlanta if it happens.
Love that. We did get a punter in the transfer portal.
I was about to say.
We did get a punter in the first transfer portal move we made was we got a punter.
Yeah, and he's an Aussie too, and he was playing in Utah. Like Jack Bowmeister.
We'll take. Come on over.
But you're talking for next year, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. I was like, there's no. I was like, I will lose my mind if you can like. Because in the league you can actually when you pick up a squad or something like that, you can. But okay, just making sure. So again, so my point's still valid. We still got old boy right now.
Yes, your point is 100% still valid.
It was demonstrated in that game against Georgia that we left points on the board when we absolutely needed them, and if we had gotten those 2 field goals, it's a different game. And we're not playing this week if we had gotten those field goals. So
yeah, but the least believer in the kicker is the only one that picked us to kick a field goal. Is why I threw my hands in the air when Q gave his score prediction. He's the only one that thinks he's going to hit one.
Listen, he's not going to hit one that's more than 36 yards. But we're gonna have that red zone series on the 12, and he makes those at home at least.
Well, okay, I have a question then for you guys, because talk about the punt, talk about special teams. That to me, even more so than some of Quinn's decision making, is our Achilles heel, or at least has been this season. If we're in a position where we're 4th and shorter than 5, and the field goal would be at least on the field 42 plus,
yes,
should we go for it every single time?
Yes. You're giving them the ball right there anyway. Help your chances. And honestly, that's when I would bring Arch in.
Yeah.
Make that dual threat. Roll him out. Okay. They're going to have to play that differently. Roll him out. He's looking. He's a good gunner helm. And there's so many levels of things you can do in that moment. But if your worst case scenario is Arch rolling out and running for 4 to 5 yards, boom, go for it every time. Because I don't trust that dude to make – I barely trust him to make a 35-yarder. But 42, and he did make a couple, but it's just it drives me crazy.
I mean, I just think that's why I asked you. It's like we've seen enough, right?
Yes.
At this point.
Oh, absolutely.
Too much.
Not to mention bad snap, fumble, blocked punt, blocked kick, like anything can happen. So I go down swinging.
Yeah. We just don't trust them. You go down with your best weapons is what you have on offense.
Absolutely. All right. Well, we will talk during the game. Those listening, enjoy. Have a great game day. Have a great experience. Let's go take care of business at home versus the Tigers and win the first ever college football playoff game at DKR. What a special, amazing, monumental moment for our Texas Longhorns to be hosting a game in the first year in the SEC. Absolutely incredible. Fisher, Tosopoulos, the Quan, Cosby. We'll see you guys later. We'll see you another time. Hook 'em.
Hook 'em.